Hi everyone, and welcome to, I believe this is video 9 of Two-Way ANOVA, and we are going to look at the interaction between gender and political orientation, go through the set of simple effects here from the SPSS output. So again, just to recap, we found two significant main effects. We found a significant main effect of gender, such that women reported higher levels of IMCP compared to men. And we also found a main effect of political orientation, in which liberals were reporting significantly greater IMCP compared to conservatives. Now we're going to find if these effects replicate across the levels of the other Ivy. So that is, we're finding a gender difference overall, but are we going to find that this gender difference will replicate for both liberals and conservatives? And we'll also check to see if this difference between liberals and conservatives will replicate for both men and women. So will the effect of political orientation replicate for men and women? Will the simple effect of gender, will that replicate for both liberals and conservatives? So here we'll look at our first set of simple effects. And so here, as you, if you look down in the table here, you'll see that it says each F tests the simple effects of political orientation within each level of the other variable. So here we're looking at the simple effects of political orientation at each level of gender for men and for women. So we're looking here at the simple effects of political orientation. So we're looking to see if there's a difference between liberals and conservatives for men, and then is there a difference between liberals and conservatives for women? Right? So that's what we're looking at here. Simple effect of political orientation at each level of gender, men and women, right? So here, I've highlighted in blue here. So here we're looking at the difference between liberals and conservatives for men. So is there a difference between liberal men and conservative men? And so we want to focus here on the sig value, and we also get a partial eta squared value for this comparison, right? So we see that our sig value here is, we get the triple zeros, so we denote that as p less than 0.001. So there is a significant difference between liberal men and conservative men. So the simple effect of political orientation is significant for men. Right. So we can see that liberal men are reporting significantly more IMCP, higher levels of IMCP compared to conservatives, right? Replicating the effect that we found overall. And this is seems to be quite a large effect here, a large difference given our partial eta squared of 0.193. So the simple effect of political orientation is significant for men. Now, is it significant for women? Oh yeah, so I drew an area here, make sure that this p-value is for this comparison here. All right, so let's take a look at the simple effect of political orientation for women, right? So is there a difference between liberal women and conservative women? And if we take a look at the p-value down here, our p-value for this comparison is 0.032. So 0.032, this is still a significant p-value because it's less than or equal to our threshold of 0.05, right? So the main effect, or the simple effect, pardon me, the simple effect of political orientation is significant also for women, right? So here we do have a significant simple effect of political orientation for women. So liberal women do differ from conservative women. But if we look at the partial eta squared value here, it's 0.059, right, which is noticeably smaller than the partial eta squared for the simple effect of political orientation for men. So there appears to be a much bigger difference between liberal men and conservative men versus liberal women and conservative women. So there's a small but here, not a big but a small but, right? So liberal scored higher on IMCP uh, than conservatives, and this was true for both men and women. But the difference was a bit larger for men. Right, so that's sort of our summary of what's going on here. So liberals did score higher in IMCP, significantly higher on IMCP than conservatives for both men and women, but the difference was a bit larger for men. Right. So that's sort of our conclusion in English without any jargon for this set of simple effects. So we have a small but, not a big but, right? Because the simple effect of political orientation was significant for both men and women. So the source of the interaction doesn't seem to be here. So the source of the interaction must be with the simple effect of gender. Now, to help maybe conceptualize what's going on here, you can also take the figure, the line graph that we made for the example here, and we can also put the p-values on the line graph to help maybe orientate yourself, maybe digest what's going on. So, first we found that liberal men and conservative men, right, significantly differed. So we do have a significant difference here between these two means. And we also found a significant difference between liberal women and conservative women. The p-value there was 0.03. So these two means differ, these two means differ, right? Now we're going to look at the simple effect of gender at each level of political orientation. So are there gender differences for liberals and are there gender differences for conservatives? So we're looking at the comparisons here and here now. So it certainly looks like there is not much of a difference between liberal men and liberal women. There does appear to be a pretty big difference between conservative men and conservative women, but we have to check the simple effects to find out what's going on, right? So here is the simple effects test for the simple effect of gender/sex. And again, if you look in the table down here, it will tell you each F tests the simple effects of participant sex, gender, within each level of the other variable. So we're looking at the simple effect of gender at each level of political orientation, right? So are there gender differences for liberals? Are there gender differences for conservatives? So here, we're looking at whether there are gender differences for liberals. So we're looking at the difference between these two means, liberal men, liberal women. And so if we focus in on the p-value here, we see that the p-value is 0.91, right? So we have a non-significant difference between liberal men and liberal women. That is, the simple effect of gender is non-significant for liberals. Non-significant for liberals. But if we look at the significance of the simple effect of gender for conservatives, the gender differences for conservatives, we see that we get the triple zeros here. So we do have a significant simple effect of gender for conservatives. That is, there is a gender difference for conservatives. But, and this is the big but here, but not for liberals. Right. So women scored higher than men on IMCP, but only among conservatives, not liberals. So here's our big but, where the simple effect of gender is significant for conservatives, but non-significant for liberals. So this is the source of our interaction. And again, we can also plot the p-values here, right? So we did find a significant difference between conservative women and conservative men, right? But we found a non-significant difference between liberal women and liberal men. Our p-value is 0.91. And so before we go on to answer 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and our little questionnaire, I just want to point out one last thing, that if you were calculating the D values, and I won't have you do this, right? So I won't have you do this on lecture quizzes or exams, but this is just an FYI. If you were to calculate the D values, you would follow the same procedure as we would with the between subjects or within subjects ANOVA, that we are taking every mean difference, we would take every mean difference and divide by S pooled, right? And following the one way between subjects and within subjects ANOVAs, to find S pooled, we would take the square root of the mean square error term here, right? So we would take the square root of 2.21, and that would equal 1.49. So this is our S pool value. So we would take every mean difference, divide by 1.49, right? So I won't have you do this, but just FYI, calculating Cohen's D works the same exact way here for the two-way ANOVA as it did for the one-way. Okay, so we can finish our questions here, a little questionnaire, right? So 6 is the simple effect of political orientation significant for women? That is, did liberals and conservatives differ for women? Yes, they did, right? And the simple effect of political orientation was also significant for men, right? Although, and this was a small but, right? The difference between liberals and conservatives was a bit bigger for men than it was for women, but the simple effect was still significant for women and for men. The simple effect of gender, was that significant for liberals? No, right? There's no gender difference among liberals, but there was, right, a simple effect of gender. There was a gender difference for conservatives. So here is the source of our interaction here, right? We got the no, yes pattern for 8 and 9. This is the source of the interaction, right? Where the simple effect of gender changes or is different across the levels of political orientation. The simple effect of gender was significant for conservatives, but not for liberals. And so that ends this video. There is the check your learning exercise in the remaining slides here, where we're looking at the effects of political orientation and gender on anti-feminist prejudice. So I want you to try to go through this as much as you can and answer the 9 questions here. Again, my goal here is not to have you, or my focus is not to have you, I will not test you on writing up a two-way ANOVA, but you should be able to answer these 9 questions given the SPSS output. So go through the output, go and transpose the means from the SPSS output into the revised means table here, plot the cell means here into the line graph, and then go through the ANOVA table and the simple effects, and try to have conclusions, summaries of the simple effects, so you're able to basically have a conclusion ready for the entire set of results for the entire ANOVA. All right. So try to do that. I will post the, I guess, the video of me going through the check your learning exercise probably on Monday. So if you want to get ahead and not wait until Wednesday to do all of this, because you still have LQ10 on two-way ANOVA to do before the exam 3 on Friday. So I'm trying to post this content a little bit ahead of time in case you want to finish it a little early.